Welcome to Metal DevOps. I have a super extremely awesome special guest with me today, Dirk Verbeuren from Megadeth.
Everybody.
So Dirk, I met Dirk, almost 3 years ago? Three years ago, something like that. We met at the Megadeth boot camp, where basically a whole bunch of fans got to get together and go to Dave Mustaine's house in Fallbrook, California, and jam out to music, learn drum clinics and guitar lessons and drink. It was a fantastic time. So it's been 3 years, and what was so cool is I called Dirk, or actually I emailed Dirk, and I said, I'm doing this new show. It's about metal music and community and technology, and I have no idea what the heck I'm doing. Would you wanna be a part of it and come on and just talk about what you've got going on in your world? And he said yes, which blew my mind, for one thing. Secondly, we came down here. I'm down in Franklin, Tennessee. So Dave has a house down here somewhere, and they're recording the 16th Megadeth album right now, which is crazy. And I know that's a big deal to you.
Yeah.
Because you are actually on this album, which is super exciting to me.
It is. It's incredible, man. It's a year of, accomplishments happening for me, because the touring happened, and now we've been in this world of writing new music for about, it's been going on for a while. I mean, I came out here a few times to work with Dave already, and then we decided to get all together in a house and jam and write tunes, and it's a huge step.
Yeah,
is the best way I can describe it, and very exciting to be a part of a band I grew up listening to as a kid.
Yeah, and
now being in the studio writing new music. Wow.
So, dude, dreams can come true. So don't think you're, anything's above you, because coming from being a fan and then being in the band, like that's mind blowing. And
it is.
For me, it's coming from being a fan and sitting and talking and hanging out with a lot of the folks in the band has been tremendous to me. I mean, it was so interesting because 3.5 years ago I'd only met Dave one time, and he was in between tours for Gigantour, and it was like way back in like 97 or 98 or something like that, and it was just a brief thing, and we saw him at a Guitar Center, and it was that quick, and and then this thing came up, and I'm like, I'm totally gonna do this, and what I think was so awesome about that weekend is we made friends with a lot of people. I mean, people in the band, people associated with the band, people outside of the band. It was basically, it goes back to that whole community thing I talk about all the time. Yeah. Like you're building this community of folks who are like-minded, who love the same type of thing, have the same passions. And for me, I came out of it a better guitar player. I was not even the drummer, really. I had some drums, and they were not the best. And I came out of it thinking, I might actually start playing these drums. I sat next to Dirk recording it when he was playing all these different drums. I'm like, man, it's so cool, And I could keep a beat, like, that was about it. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to try this drum thing, and we're going to see exactly what happens. And next thing you know, now I'm getting lessons from the band. How cool is that? And then our good friend Raphael is a really awesome guy. He's been helping me out with some lessons as well, and doing them remotely via WebEx, and also going to LA into the studio has been great. Yeah,
man. Yeah, I think that's the thing with Megadeth and with metal music in general. It really is a big community when you spend time in it. Like, obviously, I've been doing this stuff for a long time. Touring, being with bands, doing festivals and all this stuff, and you get to know everybody, and you realize that it's a big community. It's a bunch of people who are passionate about similar things.
Yeah.
And we love to share. Just like we love to share music with each other. Like, hey, check out this new band. Like, that was my teenage years. Was like trading tapes and like, check this out. Oh man, you got to hear this. We'd be skateboarding.
Yeah. Oh, you skate too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my friend would be like popping in tapes and like, what's that? That's how I discovered a lot of the stuff I like. And that kind of, even though we're now, obviously older and this is now like professional, but it's still the spirit is still about sharing. At least for me, that's how I feel it.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is going into music, it's like, if you're not passionate about something, you really don't choose it for a career.
Yeah.
But if, my dad always used to tell me this thing, and he would say, find something you love to do, then find a way to make money at it.
That's awesome.
And imagine being a musician, and, you could do anything. My dad was a landscaper most of my life, and he loved going outside, working on the dirt, and farming, and doing that, and it was fantastic. And but being able to get into music and take it as a career is just, it's got to be so cool.
It's amazing. And I'm glad you brought up your dad and the advice he gave you, because I think that's a big part of why people can succeed at what they do. I also had very supportive parents who never, shied away from helping me go in the direction that I wanted to go. They were always encouraging me, helping me out, giving me advice, coming to see my shows. Like, I'd be, playing death metal with my bands, and they'd like both be there, in the back, like super proud, wearing the shirt. And
that's awesome.
Obviously, it's music of a different generation, but they're always there, and my dad is still, my mom has passed away now, fortunately, but my dad is still there, still always super excited. He'll come and see Megadeth and stuff.
Yep.
And that's a big reason why I felt comfortable, even though it was really hard, to get where I am was not an easy road. It could seem like, of course you're a happy dude because look at you, you're playing in this big band, but it wasn't, I made a lot of sacrifices and I worked really hard to get to the point where I am now.
Yeah.
So, but support from the parents. So, that's a big one. Some
huge.
parents don't get it.
Yeah.
Like I talk to musicians where it's like, my parents don't. They just didn't understand what this was doing, what I was doing, and what this music was about, and they just kept pushing me and tried to get a real job. The kind of typical like get a real job.
Yeah,
kind of thing,
cut your hair, get a job.
yeah, exactly, and that's unfortunate. I think the right way. I mean, I don't have children, but for me, like the way I grew up, I'm super fortunate that my parents helped me.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's like you almost feel like if there's something you really want to do, and other folks are not really supportive of it, you almost feel like you're missing a piece. That there's some part of your life or the direction that you want to take that's not complete, and you feel like you're almost like an outcast.
Yeah, because you always need that approval from your first support system, which is your family, right? Yeah. And you need them to be enthusiastic, and of course you can't expect everybody to understand everything all the time. So sometimes it's going to be difficult. I mean, but when you have it, like you did and like I did, it definitely gives you extra motivation, I think. And I never gave up on my passion. That's an important thing. I always persevered, even when things were really hard and I was making no money and struggling and asking myself, like, can I do this? Do I have to get a real job and go in another direction? And then always somehow things would happen. Like I got the call from Slow Work at a time in my life when I was really considering going some different direction professionally, because I wasn't really, cutting it. I was working really hard, but it wasn't paying off. Yeah. And all of a sudden I get the call like, hey, do you want to come tour with Slow Work, who was at a much higher level than anything I had done until there. Yeah. So it shows you that, of course I was a little bit lucky, but it also shows you that when you position yourself, and this is regardless of the field, we're talking music, but this could be in landscaping or anywhere else, where when you position yourself, to become a reference in any field, eventually people are going to come and pick you up and be like, we need this guy, because everybody wants a guy who knows what he's doing, or a girl, who knows what she's doing and who's really versed and has built a reputation, right? So,
for example, your wife, right?
Yeah.
Photographer, just killer, loves music, right? And you guys just had an anniversary recently. Yeah. So happy anniversary. We did as well. Yeah. Congrats. So that's got to be a great support system too.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we, people like that end up kind of, attracting each other in a way, I guess. And I love the fact that Hannah's, my wife is a very creative person, and she just has a whole different way of creativity, but the music is what binds us, and like our common passion. And she teaches me a lot about photography. I teach her some stuff about music. And so in the end, we're a great team. Yeah. And I understand what she's trying to do, and she understands what I'm trying to do, which is, again, it's one of the difficult things about what I do is I'm gone all the time. Sure. Right? It's one of those jobs where you're on tour. Now, like, I'm here, working on the record. There's huge stretches of time where I'm not home and where, she has to figure out a way to make things work, which isn't always easy. And for some people, that's just like, I could never do that. Like, I'll talk to people, I'll be like, I could never be away that much. Or the other person will say, oh, I could never have my partner be away that much. And, sure. And so it's, again, you gotta build your life to where it works.
That is no doubt. I mean, I travel quite a bit for my job as well at Cisco, and same thing, 2 kids at home, and next thing you know, you're gone for 3 weeks, and then you come back for a couple days, depending on the months that you might be gone longer. I would imagine you are probably gone significantly more than I am. So if you're seeing this, then don't worry. Yeah. But Yeah, so I mean, it's been so fun getting to know you, and one of the things that we the way we really hit it off, which is kind of funny, we're at this Megadeth boot camp thing, and I don't even know if you remember the story. I'm standing there, and I took the last vegan burrito that they had at the buffet there, and then you had come up right behind me, and I just realized, I think we had just talked that you were vegan or something like that, or something to that effect. And I'm like, dude, here, have this, because it does me no good. I mean, I'm just, and I was like, have this vegan burrito. And then we sat down and we talked, and it was just interesting how, people bring people together because of whatever commonality you have, right? And one of the things that I love talking to you about is this whole nutrition thing and food, because I lost my mom as well back in 2003 from diabetes and health related issues with that, and my dad suffers from a lot of the same things, and I'm really trying hard to make sure I don't end up down that path and be there for my family and everything. And it seems like being vegan or being vegetarian, it's more than just, hey everybody, it's a fad, I'm gonna go jump out and just stop eating all this stuff, but it sounds like there's some real things to it. Yeah. And I don't know if you want to tell me about that a little bit, and then how you decided to go down that path.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so for me, it actually, again, I as with many things, I owe a lot of the good things in my life to my wife, who's just an amazing person. And this is one of the things that actually she kind of led me down there without, people say, oh, you're vegetarian or vegan because of your wife. Not at all. But when I met her, she actually became a vegetarian at a really young age, at age 14, I believe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which would have been, before there was any kind of trend, way before. And also before there were a lot of the options that we have now. Yeah. So back then it was a bit more hardcore to be like, and funny I use that term. With her, it came a lot from hardcore bands like Minor Threat. I can't remember some of the other bands, but there were bands that were really kind of pushing that message back then. The whole straight edge thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, animal abuse, like we don't support that, go vegan, or vegetarian. At the time it was mostly vegetarian. And so she decided to become a vegetarian, which was completely against the grain. And her parents at first thought it was a joke, and she's gonna come back in 3 days and eat meat, Yeah. But she was really serious, never strayed from it. So when I met her many years later, she, that was her way of life.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that at one point, she never said to me, oh, you can't eat meat or whatever. Like, we'd go and I'd eat whatever I eat. I was always a meat eater, grew up that way.
Yeah.
If my meal didn't have meat, I was like, that's not a meal.
It's not a meal.
That was my state of mind, right? Yeah. So that's to show you how far you can shift. And then at one point I realized, man, it's been like a month I haven't eaten any meat, and I feel great. Yeah. Like, I haven't missed it. And it was literally like that. It was like, because, at the house we would have very few or no stuff like that. So, like, she'd be showing me vegetarian options, like, here, I'll prepare you really good tofu, or here, check out these, veggie burgers or whatever. And, oh, yeah, this is good. Like, I started appreciating this stuff, like, kind of, takes a little bit of time. Yeah. And then, I just got to that point where, like, well, I guess I'm vegetarian because I haven't eaten it. Right. And I've always been, here's the other thing, I've always been a huge animal lover. Like, ever since I was a little kid, I always loved animals. And, you hear about all the stuff that happens with factory farming. Yeah. And to me, like, I just put two and two together. I was like, okay, I don't want to kind of support all this horrible treatment, these animals that basically have no life. Right. That grow up, that are just, pumped full of stuff and fed to grow as fat as they can in the smallest amount of time possible. They live in a cage where, in the case of like pigs and stuff, they can't even turn around or do anything. They live in the dark. It's completely like their life is hell. Like, that's the truth. Horrible, yeah. You look it up. These are living beings, and for me, I was like, when you start looking into that, you're like, I can't. Yeah. Like, my heart is too big for. Yeah. I think and then that's a whole argument that people will get into, and some people think that animals are there for us humans to eat. That's a viewpoint, I don't agree with that. Yeah. For me, animals are living creatures just like we are. They're on this earth for whatever reason, whatever you want to believe, but they're here, and they're not here to have to be in misery.
No, I agree.
And there would be way less pigs and cows and all that stuff if we weren't eating them. I understand that. And they would probably, if they lived in the wild, they'd get eaten by other animals. But that's a different thing.
Yeah, circle of life type thing, right?
Yeah, you watch here, like here where we are out in the country, you watch like the cows in the fields and stuff, and they're happy. Like, I watch the little calves running around playing with each other, they're all doing their thing. And that's how I see animals, like, and if that means there are only 0.5% of the cows that are there now on Earth, then so be it. That's, again, natural cycle of life.
Yeah.
But so that's my big thing. You know, for me, it's really an animal thing. I love animals, and I just don't want to be a part of it. And especially the reason why I don't want to be a part of that whole system where they get exploited and not only exploited, because that's a light term. They get
Sure.
like, they live in hell, you know, they get super poorly treated. A lot of them just get sick and don't get taken care of. We eat all that crap,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing for me is really is that like, there are options.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a part of this system if you don't want to. And I can say that because I was one of those people that, like I said, if my meal didn't have meat,
Yeah.
it wasn't a meal.
Yeah,
that was 30 years of my life.
Yeah, and you were vegetarian at some point. You made the jump from vegetarian to vegan.
Yeah.
Because probably because of the same reasons.
Because
right?
the same reasons, because the dairy industry has a lot of sides to it that are very messed up.
Yeah.
You know, when you start looking into it, and people will say, "Oh, I know this dairy farm, this local dairy farm. They don't mistreat their animals and stuff like that." And of course, you know, not every place is.
Sure.
The animals live in hell. Some places the animals live good, but in the end, they still get killed when they're not productive anymore. You know, they get killed when they're sick. Like in the case of, you look at like male chicks from chickens, they don't lay eggs, right? So they just get ground up by the millions, you know, every day. They just, because they're useless. So when chicks get born, they just take the females who lay eggs, which is what they want, and all the males just go down a conveyor belt and get killed.
That's crazy.
And I'm not talking about like, oh, there's a few hundred, you know,
Right.
This is millions and millions and millions every day that just get, I mean, it's messed up, you know, it's like, what are we doing? Why is this, you know, just because you want to eat eggs? And I get it. I love eggs. I love omelets, and eggs are in a lot of stuff. I completely get that it tastes good, but the truth is like, there are other ways to do this. And they're starting to be, fortunately now, there are starting to be a lot more, you know, people that are aware of that, and companies that are being built to give us other options, which are not only, you know, avoid all this horrible treatment of living creatures, which, if you have any respect for humans and living creatures, you know, kind of the normal equation is like, why doesn't that extend to these creatures?
Yeah.
You know, that's in my mind, you know, that's how I think. And so not only that, but also they're healthier. Like you mentioned the health issues.
Yeah, and that was the thing, trying to stay, because there's so much stuff that's in what we eat, man. And I'm not, it's not like I've missed a meal or anything like that, but but you know, what I am trying to do is kind of go down that path, because sugar, like we were talking before we came onto this, is sugar is basically like one of the worst drugs in the world.
Yeah.
It is. They won't classify it as a drug because people make too much money out of it that way, right? Yeah. But it's killing people, and then it's sad that I don't remember what it was like 60 or 70% of the American people are obese. Yeah. And maybe even more by now. And it's just, if you look at that, it's just like that's pretty sad, right? And it all comes from this kind of what you eat and everything like that. And you know, I think for you also have a really active job, right?
I do.
You know, you're moving like nonstop, and like in me trying to learn drums and do some of this, I get exhausted. I'm like,
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
But I still think that there's that balance. There's got to be a balance, and with anything in life, there's got to be a balance.
And in the end, I agree, man. It's a balance about everything, and in the end, every person has to find out for themselves what they can do, what they want to do, what their balance is.
Yeah.
Some people are going to be like, I don't want to give up the way I live. I want to live like this. I've earned this. Okay, you know. Yeah. I'm not here to, you know, I never tell people what to do. Like, right. I don't believe in that. You shove stuff down my throat, I'm going to be resistant. You know? Whereas, like, the way it happened with me, where it kind of occurred naturally, and I kind of, my eyes opened, and then I started reading, and I, like, seeing what's going on, and then I made my decision, like, following my heart. Yeah. That, to me, is, like, it's a healthy way to do it. Nobody told me, like, you can't eat meat. Because if they had, I would probably double down. Like, okay.
Yeah. Watch how much I can eat.
Second steak.
Let's go to Texas and get one of those 72-ounce Amarillo.
Exactly. No, that's it. You know, so I think it's a process. I think it's a slow process, but I think it's, you know, the world is moving in a certain direction with that stuff, and we're still, you know, dealing with generations who grew up with this. It's tradition. It's like, it's not just going to switch overnight. Yeah. But I'm happy to say that, as I've told you, a lot of people who try things like the Beyond Burger, for example, or the Beyond
it's fantastic.
Sausages, or the Impossible Burger. Like, I know several people who became vegetarian just because of that thing.
Yeah.
Because they're like, this replaces everything I love about eating fast food.
Yeah.
And this is purely made of plants.
Yeah.
And it's way healthier.
They're actually really
fast
good.
food.
I actually bought a few months ago. I had texted you.
Yeah.
I'm sure my screensaver doesn't kill this.
Yeah.
Every 10 minutes, unfortunately. But I grilled this thing. I mean, it's a substantial
It is.
patty there, and
It is,
I go to my wife. I'm like, try this. You think, oh, this is really good. I'm like, oh, is it now?
Guess what?
Guess what? It's vegan.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun. And you think you can't have metal and vegan is completely wrong.
Yeah. A lot of metalheads are vegan.
A lot of metalheads are vegan,
Yeah.
But there's it's so funny because I came from eating. We grew up on the cereals and the junk food. Like we not intentionally. It's just I think it's issue of the time, so to speak, right? And what we had, we grew up. We didn't have a whole lot of money, so when we didn't have a lot of money and you had to go rely on other places to give you food. Unfortunately, it's the breads, it's the rice, it's all the stuff that is cheap to make, but then also isn't exactly the best to sustain your life on.
Exactly.
So we went down that path, but it's interesting now because today, in this very age, there's so many more options than there were.
Right.
Probably when you were first starting down this path, right? I mean.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, definitely. I've been like in this now for about 13 years, and it's changed a lot even in these 13 years. But the thing is, you have to look at this problem from the perspective of like, at least for me, that's how I see it, from the perspective of people who don't have money, like who a lot of people in the States and also in other countries are not wealthy. They can't go out to Whole Foods and buy like Beyond Burgers every week, just because that's just above their budget. I've been there, I was for a long time. I was pretty broke, and I had to make do with what I had, and it wasn't Whole Foods stuff, for sure. So and even now, I still don't go to Whole Foods like that. I go there like, okay, I need specific things. I'm gonna buy some of the more expensive stuff because unfortunately, a lot of the good vegan stuff is a little bit higher price, right? So because it's still a growing market and so you have to look at it from the perspective, to get back to what I was saying, from the people who are like at a place where, anything they can get, is going to make do, kind of like what you said. And that's why McDonald's got so big, because super cheap allows people who don't have a big budget to go to the restaurant with their kids. Yeah. That was me as a kid growing up, My parents would be like, yeah, exactly. Like, hey, let's go get a burger, Oh, party for the kids. Like, oh my gosh, we get to go to the restaurant. Like, my parents didn't have a ton of money when I was growing up, so it was the same. And so that explains why all this stuff is so big across the world, because it's very low budget. As you said, unfortunately, the quality of it is also not the best.
Not the best,
And then it becomes a habit, and then, people, get a little more comfortable, and that becomes their thing, and then it creates this whole back end problem of like, now we have billions and billions of animals that are just kind of feeding into that system, that are just being treated like objects, So it really depends on if you're okay in your mind. Like, the question is like, are you okay with, are you able to go into one of those places and look at what's going on there, which, you can find videos online very easily, Look at that and be like, yeah, that's cool, I'm okay with that. Or are you like, man, like, the way these creatures are being treated, that's just not right.
Yeah, and then there's a third class there that's, I don't want to see it. Right? There's a lot of that.
That's a big part of it.
There's a lot of that.
You raised a very good point there, Jason, because the thing is, it gets hidden from us.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think all this footage is undercover stuff for the most part? Because they don't want you to see it. Because if you had to go do this, if I told you, hey, Jason, let's go, put some cows in a super small space, pump them full of, antibiotics and feed them the crappiest cheap food we can get so they'll get fat and they'll be like this their whole life and just miserable. And then as soon as they're fat enough, we'll kill them, or a pig, or, chicken, whatever, replace it with whatever you want. You'd be like, hell no, I'm not doing that. I'd be like, hell no, I'm not doing that. Why?
It doesn't seem like a fun thing to go and do,
It doesn't. But the truth is that's what's happening. We're not seeing it because what we see is we go to to the restaurant and we're like, oh, look at this nice plate, It looks really tasty, and I get it, ooh, the nice, piece of chicken or meat's like, oh my gosh, nice little sauce. And of course, that's freaking awesome. But the way that got there is everything except awesome.
So let me ask you something, because, we've all grown up with this diet where it shows this plate, and on that plate, like, this portion of the plate is meat, this portion is like potatoes, and then you got all these vegetables, fruits, and all this good stuff.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't, having to take care of my dad here recently, that's not necessarily the case. My dad's diabetic. He can't really have the type of carbs and stuff that, they want 46 or 64, grams of carbs for each meal or something like that. I was like,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. That's a lot of carbs.
That's a lot of carbs.
And I'm just looking at, like, I think his plate, I think the plate can look different for whoever wants to, you know what I mean? Look at that picture. It could be for somebody's vegan, one of the things that I wonder is, because a lot of things that they sell you on is protein.
Right.
Got to have protein. How do you get protein? There are plants with protein, and there's stuff that you can.
Plenty,
So I don't know what even those Beyond Burgers. I was surprised to see. I think it was like 12 or 13 grams of protein in a burger. I was like,
right. They have a decent amount of protein. I mean, there's many different ways. One of the best ways, one of the natural ways you can do it. Besides obviously fruits and vegetables, which are not that packed with protein, you'd have to eat too many of them.
Way too many, yeah.
So beans and rice.
Right.
Beans and rice are great because that combined beans and rice make a complete protein, they call it. So it's very nutritious for your body. I don't know exactly all the science behind it, but I know beans and rice is really good. So I eat that on a regular basis.
Cool.
If you're not allergic to nuts, I eat nuts a lot, like raw nuts. So I buy a lot of variety. I'll go to Trader Joe's and get like raw almonds, raw cashews. You name it. There's a whole bunch of different ones that you can get. I just put them all in a bowl, mix them up, and that's always sitting there. So whenever I'm in my kitchen and I got a little, I'm like handful of raw nuts.
And it works. It sustains you for whatever until you get to your next whatever you need to do.
It does, and it's a habit. So for me, it's about being willing to go through a phase where you're not getting all those yummy, tasty flavors that you've been used to. The sweets,
all the chocolate.
Yeah, the whatever it is, for people it's different. Some people it's salty. Like I love chips.
Yeah.
Like I still eat chips because I eat like kettle chips and stuff which are vegan, but still I eat chips because I just love it, and you need to have something, right? But at the end of the day, like the rest of the stuff I eat is healthy, and so you can always you need to allow yourself a few things that you just enjoy because you enjoy them. But the biggest picture is, you can find protein in many different ways. I mean, there's, we, like at the house, Kiko is also a healthy guy.
Yeah.
So, and David too, actually. So we and I mean, we all try, like, even Dave, obviously Dave right now is going through a lot of stuff where he has to pay attention to what he does. So we all try to, like, be smart about those things. And so we do a lot of smoothies.
Oh, yeah.
With vegan protein powder, which comes from like lentils and vegetables like that. Is very concentrated, so it's like high level of protein. You just mix that with whatever you want. I'll do like
fruit or stuff.
Yeah, I'll do like a banana, some frozen berries, a little bit of peanut butter, almond milk.
No, dude,
amazing.
I could probably just live on that.
Yeah,
I love those just because they taste good. I would probably I could probably just live on eating that.
Yeah, it's like candy, except it's like good healthy candy. If you do it, of course you don't want to be drinking that like 5 times a day either.
Sure.
If you do it like I do it usually after my morning
your neck
workout.
Would be like this.
Yeah.
Like, protein, protein.
But I do it usually after my workout in the morning.
Yeah,
that's a good time to like replenish and have something like that.
So what would be a workout for you? What type of stuff do you do? Other than just constantly, you never stop moving. So
the drums are their own workout, but I would say that's mostly cardio because I've been drumming for such a long time that like the rest of it is kind of my body's used to it. Right?
Muscle memory type thing.
Yeah, a lot of it is that. So the key with workout routines is you always want to change them up a little bit. So I'm always trying new stuff, really. And I don't do anything crazy. Obviously, you can tell I'm not like, built like Arnold or whatever. Yeah. But I just do a lot of abs because abs are, the core, the whole core thing really helps with the drums where you sit and you have to kind of be up. And I tend to have a bad posture, so
so really he's sitting straight up and I'm over like leaned over like this, like.
I'm trying, I'm not very good at sitting up straight. I'm still working on it, but I find like really working on the core helps a lot. And then I just do fitness in general. I'll do like Tabatas, which, are like high intensity interval training.
Oh, yeah,
sets.
HIIT training. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just switch it up. I'll do like biceps, abs, like push-ups, like squats, whatever, all the basic stuff, box jumps. And I'll just, every time I go do it, I make like a different routine. I have a bunch of different moves that I know, and I just make a random routine and just go with that.
So I heard that's kind of that whole muscle confusion thing, right? Because I had started going to the gym again recently, and they do these group, they call it group therapy, which is kind of funny. You get in this group, and then depending on what time you get there, you're either like, burning calories like crazy, or you're building a bunch of muscle, or you're just kind of doing some normal stuff. And every time you go, it's something different. And I literally, you're going to the gym. 45 minutes later, you got 1,200 calories burnt. I feel like I'm half the man I used to be.
Yeah.
But let me get my camera there. Sorry about that. So Cisco has a security policy that makes sure that the camera on your laptop, or the laptop locks screensaver every 10 minutes.
So you can't.
So I have to keep coming over and swiping it. So I apologize. I'm not
Makes
going to jump at the screen there, man. But so tell me about all these other cool things you're working on. Obviously, the 16th album is hopefully coming around pretty good.
It is
kicking some serious butt. I've seen some of the little teaser videos that you send out with the rolling drum set where you're like, oh, and I just like, I don't know what's going on, but I know it looks awesome. We're fast, like.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working on a lot of different things, man. There's a lot of ideas, and I don't know, obviously, yet what's gonna be on the album in the end. But
sure.
I think there's a good vibe happening. There's, it's very Megadeth. So I think Megadeth fans are gonna be happy, and it's definitely gonna be a metal album. That's one thing I can say, is that it's gonna be very metal. It's gonna be a lot of cool, snotty. Dave Mustaine riffing.
Yep.
And so we've been having a lot of fun just, taking our time kind of, which is cool, because sometimes albums get made in a very short period of time because there are tours booked and stuff. We now have the luxury that, especially because Dave anyway has to kind of take it easy right now. We have all our shows for the rest of the year more or less are canceled besides the cruise, which is still happening. So that gives us the time to really just kind of sit with these songs and, work on one, listen back the next week, be like, what does this need?
Yeah.
And it's really good to have that perspective and to have the luxury to have that perspective, because most of the times you don't.
Not being rushed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine, like, it's got to be cool to be able to put something out there and be like, all right, and then just take it in and just see, we need a little this there, a little that, and then obviously you're recording, there's a guy named Chris Rakestraw who I got to meet at the boot camp, who's the producer, who's freaking unbelievable.
Yeah, he's
and he's down there just doing his thing, or down here. We're here.
He's working with us every day, man. He's a trooper.
He's a great dude.
He's always there, working with everybody. We all get breaks. Like, all right, it's time to track some guitar. I get a break. Chris Rakestraw is always working.
Yeah,
man.
He's just stuck in there doing the Pro Tools and So I mean, it was funny because so back at this boot camp, I had met Chris for the first time, and what was neat about it was, everybody got this opportunity to go into the studio, actually with this very same type of mic here, and record themselves singing over the top of Symphony of Destruction.
Right.
And I sing the song at home all the time. I'm like, and I was like, I'm going to do that. And what was interesting is I just started getting into recording my own songs, and nothing's fully complete or anything, but I play the guitar a lot. I do I write a bunch of lyrics and things. I just at some point want them to be a song or complete and down, and what ended up getting to the point where I was like, I couldn't record, and I was having all these problems. Stuff wasn't working right, and I got Pro Tools, and diving directly into Pro Tools from not having anything is daunting. I mean, you look at that thing and you're like, holy moly, what? I'm like, new track. Yeah. Nothing works. Nothing works. I have no idea what's going on. And
it's tough.
And what I did down there was, like, I talked to Chris. I said, look, the only way I've been actually recording anything is as I'm hitting voice memo on my iPhone, and I'm just playing whatever ideas I have, because it's the only way I could figure out how to get it saved. Yeah. I wasn't using GarageBand, which I probably should have been. And so I said, would you mind if instead of me singing the song, can I sit on this side of the room with you and watch what you do and how you do work with Pro Tools and everything, because I really want to try to start recording and some stuff at home. And which was awesome, because instead of having just an hour to do that, I got to sit back there through practically all the sessions, and he showed me all these shortcuts and stuff. I'm taking videos, recording stuff, told me what interfaces to buy and all this neat stuff. And it worked out. So now I'm set. So I finally got it down to the point where I can actually figure out how to get it to record, and then it's just a matter of doing it, which is the hard part. Actually taking the time to stop and do it.
That's a great point. Again, you raised, a lot of interesting stuff. I completely agree. I can relate to that. I write my own stuff.
Yep.
And the hardest part for me a long time was to admit that I can do that and to stop finding excuses for going and doing it. Right.
Yeah.
And my wife, once again, love my wife. She was like, you can do it. You can write your own stuff. Just go do it. Just, stop making excuses for yourself. And at the end, I had to admit she's right.
Yep.
I'm going to go do it.
Which is always right to do.
Yes.
It's always right to do.
Yeah. Right. Very true. But I made time to do it and it became a habit. And now I have this habit of going in and creating.
It's like a ritual. Like you're taking a certain amount of time whenever you can, even if it's on a set schedule.
Exactly. Even if it's sometimes you have to make a schedule, sometimes there's no time. You have to, of course, it's life. But I try to make it a regular occurrence where I go in and create.
That's awesome.
Regardless of goal, outcome, not necessarily a business plan. I just go in. I have these ideas that I work on for my project Bency, which is like my grindcore project, and I just go in and create. And the thing is, it really feeds you as a human, to have your creative output. People sometimes forget. I forgot, even though I've been a musician pretty much my whole life in bands touring. And sometimes you get so caught up in the normal life and the business of it that you forget about the creativity, because it's like, it's routine. It's like, all right, we have to go tour, play the same songs, deal with all the stuff that comes with touring, all the business, and then go home and deal with home stuff, and then go back on tour, and then, we have to write an album. Let's put songs together. And I wasn't always, the biggest creator in all of my bands. I was a drummer, a lot of times like, all right, what you got? Let's put drums to this.
Sure.
Or working on structures and stuff, but not always necessarily sitting down with the guitar, coming up with my own stuff.
Awesome. And then I hear that you play the guitar. Kiko even said that. So I've never seen you play the guitar, but that's awesome. Yeah. So you've been tracking that too.
I've been doing a lot more. I actually played guitar before I played drums, way back when I was like 14, 13,
Oh, wow.
My dad always had guitars, like acoustic. At one point he bought an electric, so I was always kind of fiddling around with those. I played violin as a little kid, so I kind of had an idea of, the left hand, like where to place my hand. And I don't really know anything about the chords and all that stuff, but just kind of an instinctual kind of approach. So my technique is pretty poor and I'm still learning, but to create stuff and to write stuff is just such a fulfilling thing, So it's about kind of letting your guard down and being like, okay, I know I'm never going to play like Kiko, obviously,
Me
or
neither.
Dave,
Me neither.
or Dave, those guys are just like another level of just absolute brilliance on their instrument that so my goal is not to be even nearly as good as them, because I know that will take a few lifetimes probably, but just to be creative and just to write my own stuff and to try and do it as good as I can and then record it and make something cool out of it. And that really gives you a goal, you know. Outside of everything else, I have Megadeth, I have my drum lessons, I have all the other stuff that I do. Absolutely, my pleasure. But it's nice to have something that's just your own. And again, we're talking music, but this could be in any field. You said about how excited you are about what you do for your job, and that's so important. To be able to be creative and to have an aspect of what you do every day that you're just happy about.
Yeah, and you said fulfilled. Which made me think, there are times that I go downstairs and I get these ideas and I want to get them out. You need to get them out, because if you don't get them out, you'll lose them, or they'll disappear. Or how'd that go again? And one of the things is, when I actually did get to start recording stuff and going back and listening to it, you feel accomplished.
Yes.
Even though I'm not selling anything. Nobody's trying to get a record deal. I'm not anyway. You might be, but that's not why we're doing it. We're doing it because we're passionate about it. We love it. And it was just kind of like this whole show. One of the things that I was telling Dirk when we first started talking about the show was, I was asked, what would this whole metal DevOps thing be? And what does it even mean? And the whole idea was to build a community about things that I'm passionate about. Yeah. Metal music and technology. Right. And that's it. And the technology could be Pro Tools. The technology could be a drum machine, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. It's just, or a drum pad, I should say. You are the drum machine, in this case, But, at that point, it's like, it's, once you feel fulfilled, you feel fulfilled and accomplished once you actually get some of that down. And when you start having other pieces, so I'm learning the drums. I'm just learning, right? But the fact that I could play a riff and record it, and then now I finally got all Shure microphones for my thing here, and I got it all streamed out where I can actually start recording drum beats.
Nice.
And it was so cool to go back and listen to it, even though sometimes they might not line up just right. I'm still working on timing and some of these other things, but it's cool. You're like, I can hear what that would actually sound like, you know?
Yeah.
And
it's very exciting.
It's very exciting to be like, that was totally me. That was totally me. I mean, obviously we all have our influences and things like that, but to actually get it down here, it's like, wow, dude.
Yeah, because then it opens your mind to like, man, there are so many ways I could go with this, to start exploring.
Yeah.
You know, and then your mind realizes that like, oh my gosh, you know, this is endless. This is an open world.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a lot of great music out there already, and you know, we're all, like you said, we all have influences from all that stuff. But then again, when you create something of your own, you realize it's just slightly not the same as what I hear, because you have your way of playing, whether it's the guitar, the drums, whatever, you have your own input into that. And that in the end creates something unique, which then you realize, if I push into this and if I take some of the stuff that I like and kind of try and do it, but in my own way, you can come up with something completely new. And that's, again, so fulfilling. You know, it gives you a goal in life. It's a feeling. It's like you listen back, you're like, oh my gosh, this is cool. I want to do this with it. You know, it gets you going.
Yeah.
Then you have new projects like, oh, I want to add that. Like in my case, it's like I have all these songs and I'm like, oh, I need this kind of song, or oh, I could do a vibe like that. And so it becomes this big story, a big picture.
Yeah.
And something that, you know, like every night when we're done working on the album in the house here, I go up and I work on my own stuff. And sometimes I'll even come up with like, oh, this would be a cool Megadeth riff, so I'll record it and then show it to Dave and stuff in case he likes it. But, you know, a lot of the times it's just me having fun being creative.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny about that is something that I struggle with, is that when you said it's okay to take the time to do something for yourself. Yeah. And, you know, with technology and with music or with any industry, and life happens. You know, a lot of people have kids. I have children, and that takes a lot of time. And I feel bad sometimes about going downstairs and trying to get some stuff going. But I've also noticed that I feel happier with everything else that's going on when I do, right? I mean, you're working on some books and stuff like that, and that's like time crunch. And what I don't want to happen when, you know, and I'm sure when you're working on your own stuff, you feel the same way, is there's no deadline to that. There should be no stress to that. There's no, you have to get this done in this allotted amount of time. Yeah. You can't put you can, but it stinks when you put a time bound pressure around being creative.
Yeah, because like you said, I agree, a lot of life is that. Yeah. Like outside of our own choice. Yeah. Deadlines with work, stuff with family that needs to be done, and stuff you want to do, and there's deadlines. And so it's good to, like you said, to have one thing where it's open. And then if at some point you want to be like, okay, I want to kind of round it up, like that's kind of the phase where I'm at now with my new Band C stuff. I have a lot of songs, and I'm kind of starting to build towards like, okay, I want to, you know, get, you know, Shane from Napalm to put his bass on there, so he actually booked some studio time next month or actually this month to get started with that. To get Sven from Aborted, who's the singer, he's going to sing later this year. Kind of rounding up all the troops to put the whole package together, take it to the studio, get it mixed, and then, you know, see what I want to do with it, right? Yeah. So it's all like, but it's still very like, there's nobody else telling me, I need this thing by, you know, it needs to be done in September. You know? Which is good. It's good to have the control, the ability to say, I'm going to ease into this. And exactly. You might not have that with the 16th album, although it sounds like you have some time, which is good. And it's a different approach, which I think is great, you know. And, you know, so tell us a little bit about this band that you've got going, and what type of, you use grindcore. You want to explain it, because some folks might not know what grindcore is and what that sounds like? Yeah, great question. So for me, it's actually funny because I just made a post online a couple of days ago, or it might have been yesterday, with like kind of defining grindcore albums for me, because I wanted to hear from other people. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Napalm Death and all those in there. Exactly. I wanted to hear like what other people's opinions about that are, and tons of people responded, which was really fun. But yeah, for me, it's like, you know, early Napalm Death, arguably current Napalm Death too. Terrorizer, Brutal Truth, Repulsion, Rotten Sound, and I think the sixth one I have on there was Carcass. You know? Okay, yeah. And those are like, for me, that's like kind of, you know, along with some others, of course, like Nasm, and there's a lot of grindcore bands out there, but those for me were the ones that kind of like in my youth defined what that is. And it's a very intense kind of music and lots of different branches. Like with all music, every band does it its own way, but it's usually fast drums, a lot of the time. Sort of like, politically motivated lyrics, not necessarily politically in the sense of like politics, but lyrics that have a message.
Sure.
Not just like, the usual metal themes of fantasy or death and gore. I mean, there, again, some subgenres might have that, but grind is usually like my grind. I'd like to say, like Repulsion, I guess, is more about like horror.
Yeah.
They made one album and that's it. That's the only one they did, and they probably will ever do. And it's a legendary album. But like Napalm Death and even a band like Carcass, who were actually vegans way back in the day, and kind of put all the gore out there to kind of, ironically, like how or sarcastically, like British people would do, be like, yeah, you like this, huh? Like, this is what you're eating, So they had like this kind of funny, like medical approach to it. But so it's all those elements, fast, short, like kind of punk influenced stuff with lots of intensity and kind of lyrics that have meaning. So that's the ground. The base for what I do with Ben C is that, and then I'm lucky to have awesome people with me, like Shane Embry, who's obviously the legendary bass player for Napalm Death. He's a friend of mine. He became a friend over the years, so he plays bass, and then Sven, who's another longtime friend of mine from Aborted, fellow Belgian.
Yep.
We worked together back in the early 2000s and always stayed friends. And when I needed, I don't do the vocal thing, and I just don't know how to sing that way. Like I could, but I've done a few things. I actually did a few. We posted a little video of me doing some backing vocals on the Cadaver album a couple of months ago. But I can keep that up for about 10 minutes, and then I probably have no voice. So I have no proper technique to do it.
Yeah. See, the funny thing is about that is like, I do some singing as well, but it's not. It's not massive or anything like that. But you'd be surprised, like all over the years, and you get involved with music, and then you're singing, and then you're doing all these different things, and yet next thing you know, you're not paying attention, and then your voice is cashed. And that happened to me. I don't know, a day before I was supposed to speak at Cisco Live this year. We were we were there for the customer appreciation event. They had the Foo Fighters, and then who was it? Weezer.
Nice.
I was like, so I'm like just singing. Ooh, next thing you know, the next day I'm like, all right, everybody.